Alright guys, welcome back. Today this will be an investment video. The last one really was received well by you, so I thought why not make an updated one with all the new stuff being added to Master Duel. Since the last video today we are going to talk about the best decks, or I should rather say the best engines, archetypes to invest in for the rest of the year and also the start of next year. We already know some stuff from the OCG, so we can take a look into the ball basically and see what the future holds for us. And just to explain to you how this will work, we have the best invest category, which obviously are the best decks to invest in. Then we have solid, as I wanted to have a category in the middle of not bad, mid and best invest. Then there's an okay category, you could also call it like this, it's okay. And then you shouldn't go for these archetypes since they are just not that great. They are either not strong, they might be too expensive, or just not future proof. So these are the three basic things where I will judge these engines on. Are they expensive in terms of ultra rares? Have they a good life in the future? Will they be used? Are they strong? And then the third point, as a single point, how good is the engine, which also obviously means how good is the potential of the engine. So let us start right in, because we have a lot of decks to go through. If there are any questions, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'm also very interested in your opinion. You can let me know in the comments. What do you think of my takes here? So without further ado, let's start right here. We have Goblin Biker, which I think coming into the Ryziel format, which will be something that we will head into next. This is actually a pretty nice pick. It's also not that expensive when it comes to ultra rare. This was something I placed really highly within the last investment ban list, but honestly, I will place it a bit less down below here, because last time around when I basically said to you, okay, get this deck, it was obviously earlier on for this deck, and the later a deck survives, basically, the weaker it gets. So we will probably have it at the top of the not bad mid category, especially going into the Ryziel format. This will be a nice deck, and it's not that ultra rare heavy. I don't really know what will happen after the Ryziel format though, which is why I can't really put it in solid. We have Infernoid. I just this just don't do it. It's not super cheap, super expensive, but it's just a really bad archetype, a really bad deck. Don't invest in this. Then we have a Ritual Beast, which also I would say I wouldn't really invest in this. Obviously not as bad as Infernoid, but with the Dominus traps, it's really bad. The Fuvalos, the Mulch armies is really something that doesn't really go well for Ritual Beast, for any combo deck that is. It's also not a very cheap. It's hard to play, not really that strong at the moment, and unlikely to get strong in the future. And yeah, we have just received the support for this, so it's obviously unlikely to get a support in the future. We have the Fiendsmith engine. Fiendsmith engine is one of the best invests in my opinion at the moment. Yes, this engine is quite old in quotation marks at this moment, but we have just received the full power version of this. Obviously, this will receive hits at some point, but I think investing in the Fiendsmith engine, which is not the cheapest engine, will be a good investment into the future. There will come a point at which the engine will be hit too much and you can't use it anymore, but I think we will have a solid at least half a year, maybe even an entire year of playing the Fiendsmith engine, which you can basically put into nearly any deck. You can also play pure, so this is definitely one of the best investments ever. Obviously, it would have been a better investment going into it when it came out. We have Agrostars, the new archetype, and we will get a second support wave for this, so this will be a bit better in the future, but we can already see from the OCG that it's not really anything to write home about, so I would honestly say don't really go for that. The only upside is that it only has 3 ultra rares at the moment, which is the main monster. You can also see right here, I think. So it's not as bad as, for example, Infernoid, and I also wouldn't say it's as bad as Ritual Beasts maybe, since it's a newer deck and will receive more support in the future, but it's just not something I would go for. It just lacks the strength and the impact, and we already know this from the OCG and the TCG. Then we have Mermail Atlantean, which in Master Duel I don't really like as much. In TCG it was really good because we could summon 2 totally awesomes, which we can't here. We also have Maxi, which is super bad for the deck. A big support wave just came for this. We have the entire support wave. It is not a cheap deck. I would definitely not really go for this, and I don't know, I can't really put Agrostars above the Mermaid Atlantean stuff, but this is not a deck I would invest in. Same as with the evil hero stuff. There is some support for heroes on the horizon in the future, but you don't even need to play the evil hero stuff in your hero deck, so this is definitely something that I would not really go for. It's mid-ish ultra rare heavy, so that's also not something that is good for the deck or for the engine basically. So not something I would invest in, even though if you wanted to invest in the yugioh stuff, you should do it now since it's at its newest point. So this is always true for any engine here, for any archetype. If the archetype or the engine is newer, then this is obviously the best point to invest in that there will ever be, because there's a selection pack for this specific archetype, and also yeah, it is at its strongest and will be power crept in the future. So it's always the best move if you really want an archetype to go for it right at the beginning. Then we have Pearly, quite an old one, will obviously receive as a lot of archetypes support in the far future, but not really very something that's around the corner, I would say. In terms of ultra rares, it is quite an expensive deck, but I wouldn't really say it's in the bad and don't do it category. It definitely has been power crept, and we will probably have it here at the bottom of the not bad mid category. Definitely a deck that you can go for. It also obviously depends on how many cards you already have. This is something that I can't really account for here, because if you already have, I don't know, let's say 3 Pearly ultra rares, then it makes more sense to go for the rest of the cards in comparison to if you don't have them, obviously. So I would say this is an okay one, and it's close to being at the don't category. Then we have Centurion, which I think is a very solid one. We have the entire stuff right now. It's a really solid and strong synchro archetype, not the cheapest, but will probably yeah, have this is a bit like Labyrinth in the sense that every synchro monster that comes out that we can use is basically additional support, like with the traps in Labyrinth. If a new trap comes out, then it's support for Labyrinth basically. So I think that Centurion is actually quite strong, will be strong in the future for a while, and is not a bad investment. And it's also not a bad time to invest in a Centurion. I think this will be a fan favorite for a while. We have the Heroes, a very expensive deck. We have the Structure deck, which is quite nice in my opinion. This is something that bumps this deck up a bit. Then again, Heroes is just not something that is super strong. And the one thing that goes or is going for Heroes, I'm assuming, and this might put it in a not bad mid category, you can definitely argue, is the fact that there will always be coming more hero support, like we just saw with the evil hero stuff, and there's even newer support that is already announced for the OCG. So I guess let's put it in the not bad mid category, since this is a good long-term investment. It's not as strong right now, and it is quite expensive, which are the downsides. But in the long run, there will always be hero support coming, but we obviously don't know when, so it's not the best investment. We have Branded Despia, which this is one of the craziest decks. If there was any deck that you should have invested in at the beginning of the deck, it is Branded Despia, because it's insane how long this deck has been around and been strong, and it will probably stay strong for a while. It's just insane. Getting support from the Dragon Tail archetype, where you can mix Branded Despia with Dragon Tail in the future. It is quite expensive, has a very good secret pack, that needs to be said. So I don't know, Branded Despia is just... I mean, obviously the best time to invest in Branded Despia was a while ago, like 2 or 2.5 years, which is why I can't really put it into best invest, but this will probably be at the top of the solid category. I think this is a deck that will be around in some capacity for a long time. Obviously will most likely never again be the strongest deck in the game. I can't really see it. Maybe if we get support, but Branded is just a really, really good investment option still, and I think this is crazy. Then we have this Baphomet, winged Baphomet Chimera thingy that you combined with Branded, but it's also its own deck, which I don't know, it's a not bad mid option here. You can definitely play this together with White Woods, for example, White Forest. It's not bad. It's probably better than these decks here, and maybe even better than the Goblin Bike. It depends a bit on how big Risey it will be, but let's put it here. Not something I would say, oh, go and put all your gems into. It's also not that cheap, but also not the worst, I guess. Then we have Ancient Gear, which is something I wouldn't really go for, since we have better going second decks, Tenpai, haha. So it's definitely not a bad deck, since going second can always surprise your opponent and win the game, but I wouldn't go for this right now. They also just received their additional support. Same goes for the Light Swan. It's just not strong. It received support, will likely not receive support in the near future, and yeah, it's just weaker tier elements. It's unfortunately not that cheap, because this dragon here is also an ultra rare, so I don't know, this is not something I would go for. This is not a good investment in my opinion. We have Memento, which obviously is at its strongest point right now. It is a combo deck, which is always a bit bad in Master Duel since we have Maxi still. It's tough to say how to place Memento. I think right now it's a solid option. Also because it's not very ultra rare heavy. Is it more solid than Centurion? In terms of being cheaper, yes. But there was definitely a better time. Was there a better time to invest in Memento? You could argue against this because this has been around for this may be an exclusion because this has been around for a long time, and at the beginning it was not very strong, but now it is at its full power moment. We have a Rescue Ace, which honestly I think is still kind of a solid option. There will be engines in the future that you can combine this engine with. The engine alone is at a very strong point. For some reason we have double hydrant in here, so let's just put it here so we don't get confused. But yeah, I think Rescue Ace is still quite strong. They have a really easy game plan with the Turbulence just setting 4. This will be power crept in the future, but also isn't super expensive. So yeah, this is a solid one in my opinion. We have Salamangreat, which is not bad mid. They have just received their support wave. Definitely worse than Heroes because Heroes has more future options in my opinion. We have Laundries. I wouldn't go for this right now. It's not super expensive, but it's just there are too many hits on this deck, and there are better options that kind of do the same as does Fluwandereeze, namely Kashtira. And Kashtira is an engine, so we have to talk about Kashtira and then the Kashtira engine. So Kashtira is a deck which also entails Kashtira Rysart, which is an ultra rare, Kashtira Rysart, which is also an ultra rare. This is, I think, like a not bad mid option here, but the Kashtira engine in and of itself, the little engine as I call it, which would be 2 unicorns, a Fenrir, and then maybe a Kashtira Birth, it's honestly something that is one of the best investments. I think this will be around for a while. We will probably see Fenrir coming back to 2, Unicorn coming back to 3 or something like this. And there will always be decks that you can just put this Kashtira engine in. We are talking about the little engine here, not with Kashtira Rysarts, because then it's pure Kashtira, the entire Kashtira deck. Then it's firstly not that cheap and it's not as strong, but it can play these like banishment cards, which is always nice. But in that case, I would say it's more of a not bad mid option. But if we just talk this little Kashtira package, I think this is super strong, even though there are 3 ultra rares. And the Kashtira Unicorn, for example, is one of the craziest cards in the game because this is the only card that you can easily summon that can rip stuff out of the extra deck. And if the extra decks are tight, then it's really impactful interruption. We also have Fenrir, which is a great monster to break boards. There are boards that just a lone Fenrir destroys, which is just crazy, and they can search each other, which is also very nice. So the Kashtira engine, the little one, is a really good investment in my opinion. We have Unchained. This is honestly a solid one. I think this is unlikely to be hit anytime in the foreseeable future. We have the Fiendsmith stuff that you can combine with this. You can combine this with Magical Musketeers if you wanted to. This can provide or build a solid board, which unfortunately has to play into Nibiru. This is definitely a weak point, but if you combine this with the Fiendsmith engine, you can establish your DD Wife King, High Caesar beforehand. And also, this plays kind of nicely into the Ryziel format, since Ryziel often wants to destroy cards, and obviously destroying Unchained cards, that's what the deck wants. We have Labyrinth, which for some reason I still have to put this in the best investment category, just because it's okay from how expensive it is a standpoint, because it's not that expensive, and Labyrinth is just the best trap deck that we have, which means every trap that gets released is basically Labyrinth support. We have seen this with Daruma Karma Cannon, very impactful. We have seen this with the Equation Cannon. We have seen this with Dominus Impulse, which obviously Dominus Impulse was good in a lot of decks, but also in Labyrinth. And Labyrinth is just solid in the way it wants to play the game. You can basically tech it against any meta deck. For Ryziel, you would maybe play Mischief of the Gnomes, changing their levels. You can play Dimensional Barrier, you can play the Karma Cannon, but you could play so many different things depending on what the best meta deck is, that this deck is so versatile and not that expensive that I think the deck will be around in Master Duel for a while, even though you don't see it a lot at this moment, just because it's not one of the strongest decks. This is not what makes this one of the best investments, but I think this is a deck that will get shadow support, you could say, for a long time, and is probably not really going to receive any more hits. With Exorcisters, I wouldn't go for this. They are just better options that, yeah, stronger decks that are cheaper. So Exorcisters for that reason is something I would put very low. We have Dinosaurs, same thing here. There are definitely some cool dinosaur moves that you can make. It also not the most expensive deck, but just not something I would invest in. Sprite is a bit different. I would call this not a bad mid. At some point, I could definitely see the Sprite engine being used again. It is very splashable into the right deck. So keep your Sprite stuff, I would say. You could invest into this. It's not that bad. We have the Toads back at 3, basically, the Swap Frogs, I think. So it's not bad, but there are definitely better options. Princess is something I would put in the Exorcist of Don Reese category. We have the Ragnarika, and I also combine this with Rika all the time, so let's talk about both of them. For both of them, I would say it's not bad mid, but at the bottom of this category here. If we talk pure Ragnarika, then don't go for this. If we're talking Rika, Ragnarika, then it's not bad mid. Plant support or insect support is somehow Ragnarika, Rika support. So I guess this is something that goes for the deck. Not super cheap. You normally play a 60 card variant, which means you will need a lot of different cards. A lot of them are ultra rare. So I don't know. Then we have the Primate engine, which I think is one of the best investments that you could make right now. It might be the second best one beside the Fiendsmith engine. This is quite new. This is, in my opinion, very unlikely to get a hard hit in the future, but this will always be something that you could put into any control deck and into any deck that works with normal monsters. Like I definitely see Konami supporting more normal monster decks in the future. Like, for example, maybe Dark Magician, we have seen this already, even though the cards weren't that great. But yeah, the Primate engine, especially the Drill Beam, is insane. We can already see in the OCG that this will be used in decks like Yummy, because this can bridge into the Yummy engine with their new support wave that they will get, which is not crazy. So it will not bring the Primate archetype into a realm where it needs hits, in my opinion. This is not the cheapest engine. This is the thing that is definitely the minus point for this. You need 3 Ether Barrel and 3 Lordly Lords. All of them are ultra rares. And then you need 1 Drill Beam. This is the most basic engine, I would say. It's not cheap, but it's super strong, and it is at its strongest point right now. So the best time to invest into the Primate engine was a few packs ago, but is definitely still now super, super strong. We will see a lot of Primate in the future. Then we have Fire King, which honestly, it's an okay engine. I'm not quite sure whether this is something that will go into a lot of decks in the future. I guess in everything that is fire, it kind of can go. So even on its own, even the pure Fire King deck isn't even that bad. But I have to, let's put it at the bottom of the solid category. I think that, for example, the Rescuers engine, just the engine itself is a bit better than the Fire King engine, but this is definitely not bad. Depending on how many copies of the cards you want to play, it can be very expensive. Playing triple Garunix, all of them are ultra rare. Playing triple Fire King Ponix, 3 ultra rares. So you can play this cheaply in the Snake Eye version, Snake Eye Examiner version, or you can play this very expensively. We have Mavmech still. Mavmech Circular is at 3. This will be combinable with Malice in the future. I think we will see some hits to this Mavmech Circular finally at some point. But honestly, this is just Cybers, and there's always Cyber support coming. So honestly, I think Mavmech is kind of a solid option. The only thing that goes against this, in my opinion, is the fact that we will probably see something happening to Mavmech Circular. Where did I pull this from? This was here, right? Okay. So I would put it Untat Centurion and Memento. Then we have Raid Raptor. I wouldn't go for this. It's kind of like Pearly a bit, but I think Pearly is just better. So let's put it high up in the bad don't category, since this can produce a nearly unkillable end boss monster, which is definitely something that if our opponents are not prepared for this is nice. But then again, this is a long combo. We have Maxi, we have a lot of hand traps. It doesn't really work out, I think. We have the Scarlet, Red, Violet. I always forget what this is called, the Crimson something, the Crimson stuff. So the Crimson stuff, in my opinion, is something I wouldn't really go for. It's too expensive for what it does, which is not much, not as bad as Blonde Reese, I would say, but and better as Lightspawn, in my opinion. But yeah, not something I would go for. Then we have the Blue Eyes engine. So obviously, if we are talking Primate, and this is something I just want to bring up a moment here. If we're talking Primate Blue Eyes, I think this is one of the best decks, not engines, that you can can invest in right now. Right now, it's obviously as its strongest point. It will probably be topped by Malice and Ryziel in the near future, and they will probably also not hit either the Blue Eyes or the Primate stuff. At least we have not seen anything like this in TCG and OCG, and I think this is a deck that you can play for a while, and that will work for a while since it's just very solid. Obviously, in, I don't know, 2 years or something, this might be power crap then. Then again, also, it's not super expensive. It's a good investment, especially if you want to invest in this right now. If you like the deck, if you like to play the deck, I think this will be very relevant for a while and will also not really be hit. So let's talk Blue Eyes Pure now. This is like combined Blue Eyes Primate. If we talk Blue Eyes Pure and you don't want to combine this with the Primate engine, I think this is a solid option, and maybe a bit better than Rescue Ace. I don't know, something like this, since obviously with Primate it's just way better. So if you want to go for this, you shouldn't be crazy. You can combine this alone as a standalone engine. This is at the moment solid, but will probably in terms of power level fall off quite hard. So I don't know, I can't, can I really? Yeah, I think it's okay to put it, I don't know, under Rescue Ace, for example. The Hydrant went from here. Okay. We also have another Salamangreat Raging Phoenix for some reason. We have this Jandora G Millennium stuff, whatever, don't get this, is bad. We have White Woods, which this will still receive more support in the future, good support. It is a combo deck, unfortunately, but I think it's not that cheap, but it's a solid investment, especially with the new support, even more solid than some of these decks, in my opinion. Can't really put it over Branded, since Branded is just crazy. We have Drytron with the new support wave. Not the greatest deck, has just received support. It is not that expensive, that's the definite upside of this deck, but I won't go for this. We have the new Shark stuff we have received a few packs ago. Same thing as with Drytron, I would say. Nothing special, don't go for this. Same for this Tachyon XYZ stuff. All of these decks are just kind of ultra rare heavy and don't really do anything. Obviously, I guess the upside for this Tachyon XYZ stuff is that any XYZ coming out is potentially a support for Tachyon. So let's put it a bit higher maybe. But yeah, all of the decks or the archetypes in this category should definitely be avoided. If you want to go for these, you should definitely think hard about this. And these ones I think you can go for and feel kind of nice about them. It depends a bit. Then we have Melodious, which this is not bad, a mid option, one of the better combo decks in my opinion, also not super expensive. I would definitely place this under Goblin Biker. Once again, we have Salamangreat here, we won't put it here. This one we already had. We have Menadium, which is something I wouldn't go for right now, but it's definitely one of the better combo decks that I wouldn't go for. Might have convex potential in the future with a few more support cards. We have Sky Striker, which honestly, it's very expensive, but it will get good support in the future. And as it is a fan favorite deck, it will probably get even more support in the far future. So honestly, I think Sky Striker also, it's a nice going second deck, is kind of a solid option, especially because we know there's future support coming in the OCG. Let's even put this over Unchained in my opinion. And then we have Jubel, as obviously just received the entire power stuff. It is a very powerful deck right now, and I'm not quite sure whether it will see any further hits. Probably it will just disappear with Ryziel and Malice coming. Would I invest in this right now? I think there are just better investments at the moment, but it's still not bad. So let's call it a solid option. I guess it is kind of more solid than Unchained at the moment. So yeah, this is a good place for it. Then we have Traptrix, it's just worse. Labyrinth, don't go for this. And then we have Samurai, Super Heavy Samurai. No, don't go for this. The time is over. It had its time in the sun and now it's done. We have Tearlaments, which Tearlaments is always a bit hard to place. I think this is somehow not bad mid category. It is hit quite hard, so we might see some unhits in the future, which is good for the deck. It is quite expensive, maybe some support in the far future, but I think it will take some time to get new Tearlament support. So I don't know, not something I would consider. It's okay, it's not bad, it's mid, like the category says. We have Dragon Link, which, yeah, if there are new dragons coming out, this can definitely be nice for Dragon Link. So this is one of these archetypes where any new cards, or where there's a lot of new support cards that can come out, basically because it's just Dragon Link, the dragon deck basically. So I would say this might be even better than Tearlaments. Yeah, I would put it over Tearlaments for both decks. We don't know about any real support cards. Then again, direct Dragon support cards. This has been a while, so this might potentially come sooner than Telemans, I would assume. But yeah, everything that is Dragon will support this deck. And then here's a sleeper pick, Vanquish Soul. This is one of the best investments in my opinion, since this is a deck currently dominating the OCG. This has already received in the OCG another support wave, which is crazy because this deck isn't even that old. This might be the deck that has received the third support wave, the fastest out of all the decks. I'm not quite sure since I am only playing once again since a few years. But yeah, Vanquish Soul is definitely something that you could invest into right now. It's okay in terms of power level and how expensive it is, and will definitely become very good in the future. With the new support. And then we have Sword Soul. I don't know, they are just better decks. If you want a beginner-friendly deck, you could go for Centurion, for example, which is also not a hard-to-play deck. Could go for Blue Eyes, combine it with Primite, and be very good. They are just way better decks that kind of do the same thing as Sword Soul does. It's not that expensive. That's something that goes for this. And if you have the deck from the campaign, then it's obviously nice. We have Tenpai Dragon, which honestly, I think it's kind of a solid option. It is at the bottom of solid, but it's definitely not bad, since now the engine is quite cheap, because we have a lot of cards that already have been hit. This is still a going second deck, and at the moment everyone is going first, so you will go second a lot, which is definitely what you want as this deck. It's something that is really going for the deck, and I think you can still surprise your opponent with Tenpai Dragons. You can combine this with Bestials, with other control stuff, maybe Primite, maybe with Fiendsmith. So I think Tenpai is definitely still around and kind of a nice investment, still a very solid one you could definitely go for. We have Snake Eyes, and this is honestly a bit tough since I'm not sure what will happen to this engine in the future. The good thing is that a lot of pieces have already been hit, so there are not a lot of ultra rares left that you can even make here. And making something like a Diabellstar, I don't know, you can't really call the Diabellstar Snake Eyes engine. I guess this is more Whitewoods engine, Diabellstar engine. I don't have a specific category for that. We can talk about this in a minute. But yeah, Snake Eyes, this is really tough to rank in my opinion. I think it has more potential than, for example, something like Fire King when it comes to how good it can be, because it produces these bodies. But if, for example, we will see a hit to original Symphospoils or Flamebird Dragon, then it's definitely worse. So at the moment of making this video, I would say don't go for this right now, because this might still be hit on the next ban list. I would wait. If we get Rising and Malice and this is still not hit, then it will probably not be hit, and then it's okay. But if this receives a major hit like Original Symphospoils or Flamebird Dragon, which I don't really think, but you can't be sure, then this is not something I would invest in right now. So keep an eye out for Snake Eyes, but maybe, yeah, be a bit on the back foot for this. Voiceless Voice. Unfortunately, this is a very expensive deck. Otherwise, this could be kind of nice. Plays nicely into Maxi and into Fuva Loss. It's a bit like Sword Soul. It's easy to learn, can be quite strong. Good deck for beginners, but very expensive. Unfortunately, I think there are better decks that you could go for. Blue Eyes Primate, for example. This is still solid, though. I can't really not put this in the solid category. I think this will be solid for a while. You can definitely take this to the ladder, be successful. The only thing is that it will be power crept quite extensively or at some point, and has already been. So let's put it at the top of not bad mid category. I think it's better here at this spot. Then we have the Dark World stuff. Don't go for this, not really a thing. Okay when it comes to how expensive it is. And then we have only two left because we have some duplicates here. This is the Ashen stuff. I wouldn't go for this. And then we have Millennium, the Exodia stuff, which is interesting because they will receive another monster negate in the future. So that's nice, I guess. It's also not that expensive and it's not bad. Do I put this in the solid category though? I think the fact that you can go first and you can play some like Dimensional Fissures, you can play like Floodgates and stuff. I think this kind of makes this deck solid. Definitely something you could invest in, especially because it is not that expensive. And I think I'm happy with this. Obviously could rearrange these here, could talk about them more, but I would say this is in general a category that you should definitely avoid for the not bad mid decks. Yeah, you could consider them, but I might wait, see what else is coming out. These are solid options that you can probably invest invest into and yeah, be quite happy about this. And these are the best investment options that you have available in Master Duel right now, in my opinion. And we can quickly talk about Azamina, because I am missing Azamina here, and then the Diabellstar stuff, which is also an engine I would call solid. This is an engine that you can put into some decks. This is a solid one that I would place at the bottom of solid here, if you were wondering. But now I'm very interested in your opinion. Let me know what you think of my list here. What are you waiting for? What do you want to invest in? Are there any more questions? Let me know. Thanks for being here, and we will see each other in the next one.